Let's start this meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. If any of the members of the public would like to comment on an agenda item, please fill out one of the blue comment cards and give it to Kristen in the back. If you are attending virtually through Zoom, place comments in the chat and the board secretary will call on you at the appropriate time. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per individual. Current policy allows for any item on the agenda to be open for comment. Members, please remember to state your name clearly when making a motion or voting. And we'll move on to 2.0, communications and presentations. Are there any requests from persons wishing to speak? All right. Financial report, are there any questions, comments? 2.3, full faith credit project report, are there any questions or comments? 2.4, out of state travel. Any questions or comments about the football seniors going to Lake Shasta?
Yes. That sounds fun.
All right. All items on the consent agenda can be approved by a single motion unless a member of the board or Superintendent Sweeney requests an item be changed, removed, or voted on separately. Are there any changes or additions? All right.
Member Schmidt moves that we accept the consent agenda.
Member Sable seconds.
Any discussion?
My discussion is just as confusing in the minutes as it was when I was there.
Yes, it was. But entertaining.
Okay. Kristen, can I have a roll call vote? Or Tanya?
I'm gonna go ahead and defer to Kristen for them because I can't hardly see who's all there, so. To keep things speeding along, I'll have Kristen.
Sounds good. Member
I'll
Smith,
record, so please do make sure you say your name.
member Smith,
Yes.
member Dibdall,
Yes.
member Richardson,
Yes.
member Schmidt,
Yes.
member Sable,
Yes.
member Brownell,
Yes.
member Wilkins.
Yes. Okay, reports, 4.1, Mr. Santiago, dress code. Now I get the tag. I connected.
There's a few more of us, not just Hector, but he's gonna take the majority of the lead here. We wanted to talk about dress codes at our secondary schools because there's been a keen interest in the board in talking about this over a number of sessions that we've had last year, and then I heard it again in July. So I asked him, would it be helpful and proactive to inform the board on what we do related to dress code policy. So board policy JFCA, which you're not intended to read all that up there, it's just a screenshot that we do have a board policy that speaks directly to how we implement dress code in our district. That little blurb though goes a lot further. If you look at the third paragraph down, it very clearly says building dress codes will be provided in student handbooks. And so we're gonna get into, Hector's gonna share with you what happens at Grants Pass High School, what the process looks like, and then Robert will share a little bit on each talking point of what is happening in middle school. And so we're gonna drive this for you. Yeah.
I haven't met everybody here on the board yet. I think they're very young because I've seen you up to. But I'm an assistant principal at Grants Pass High School. It's my 3rd year, 19th year in education. I was in a classroom for 16 years. So I have some opinion as to Mr. Lego about the dress code.
And what did you do before? I think that's pretty good.
I taught in the Medford School District for 16 years.
Prior to teaching.
Board teaching, I worked for Charles Schwab at the brokerage firm almost 9 years. I was a senior engineer in technology, and then before that, I was in the military for consolidated.
Thanks.
No worries. If we can go back to that previous slide just for a second, there's a couple things I thought were pertinent that we say. with regards to that.
I'm trying. Kristen, can you ask him to go back when it's not working on, sorry.
Thank you. So, the board policy's been around a long time. In 1988 was the first time it was adopted. Grants Pass School District's not trying to be, closed police, but it's important to note that we feel strongly in our campuses, you know, it's not a beach or a party house or the mall. And so there's a standard and we adhere to it as much as we can. Next slide.
Okay, this is not working, so he's gonna do it again. Thank you.
So we clearly state in a parent-student handbook of exactly what's allowable. We provide as much description as necessary to understand fully. You know, you have to have a shirt, pair of pants, shoes when you come to school. And I'm not gonna be light-hearted here, I'm saying that we make it very clear what the expectations are. Of note, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th bullet down. New message about what's allowable. All shirts must physically touch the top of the belly button without being pulled down while standing straight. That's new to the handbook as of this year. We try to, our philosophy is basically, it's a place of business for the adults, as well as the students that attend there. So we expect staff and students to dress accordingly at that time. We'd like them to, sorry.
I have a question on bullet 5. So the top of the belly button, so there would be some midriff. Now, in a place of business, nobody would want to see my midriff. But if my shirt came down the top of my belly button, there'd be a couple inches showing. So has it been determined that that's allowable, that there's some midriff that can be shown?
For students, yes, sir. We, again, not trying to be fashion police. A lot of the clothes are designed that way. So we at least set the limit of how much midriff. And so the top of the belly button was not a consolation, but it was a.
I guess I just question that a little bit, because then if we're trying to prepare them for a professional environment, I don't know very many professional environments, maybe Dutch Brothers, but career professional environment that the midriff would be allowed to be shown.
I don't disagree for sure whatsoever. However, we're talking about kids from our community. They have the clothes that have been bought by their parents. So before we start determining as a school what they can or can't have at all, we at least have some talking points or some starting place with what dress we believe to be at least, you know, reasonably important.
Well, can we have the pants above the top of the belly button?
I think all those things are negotiable. We do want kids to be adoptive and creative and critically think about their both choices, but again, we're not going to tell them, you know, you will do this, you will do that, not yet. Right? We haven't got to the point yet where we're telling you exactly what you will or will not have at our school. And we're as reasonable as we can with what's allowable. Next slide, please. We're also as reasonable with what's not allowable. We spell it out as clearly as possible so that students understand, you know, alcohol, tobacco, t-shirts, marijuana shirts. Again, of note, bullet 3, no tube tops, halter top without a back or spaghetti straps. That's new for this school year. And then the very bottom one has to do with student faces being seen all times. Last year, we ran into a situation where students wore what's called the Pooh Shiesty mask, and they would pull up their mask, they do something nefarious, pull their mask down. We couldn't see exactly who it was until we found out who it was and brought them to our offices. But it's also net new about masks in general. Slide number 4. Next slide, please. Robert, you have any comments?
I was just gonna say on those 2 previous slides, those are the slides that I think are most helpful when administrators or front office staff do have to interact with students that have been brought down to the office for dress code. Often what we'll do is put that language in front of them and say, hey, we went through this at the beginning of the school year. Why don't you read this for me? Tell me what you think if your dress meets those expectations. And then it's a good entry point to kind of let them go, well, I guess what this says, like clothes don't match it, rather than just say don't wear that. So those 2 pieces of the handbook I think are pretty important for when you have to follow up on what might be a violation.
We have lots of opportunities to talk with staff about dress code expectations. We're always refining the process, specifically what we would like the classroom teachers to manage for themselves and what we think office should manage. And while we do have a document that teachers can refer to, we're going to refine that again this year and make it very plain language. We do that in staff meetings, when administrators go in to observe a teacher teaching. We see something there, that's another opportunity to help staff understand. When they're referred to the office, we provide them, students are referred to the office, we provide feedback to the teachers about what's gone on and what's happened. If there's something that teacher misunderstands or isn't clear on, we also take that opportunity to re-educate them and help them. Basically, we believe all staff know that they are empowered to handle any situation in their classroom, up to where they can't handle it if something too big, and then they'll send it to the office. But administrators can't be everywhere, so we are asking staff and students to take some responsibilities. Not all people appreciate the district, and for a lot of reasons.
Yeah, so a lot of our staff do a great job with it, but there are occasions, I think, just to be transparent, when you're a male staff member, you might have to confront a young lady whose dress is not appropriate, how that conversation can go. We've had staff members in the past say, I'm just not comfortable addressing it, and that's what we say, then send us an email, we'll call the student down. And if I'm comfortable addressing it, then I will. Sometimes I'm not super comfortable, and so we'll hand it off to a female administrator or one of our front office staff to try to help with that, because it does put staff in some uncomfortable positions at times to address dress that could come back on them as maybe, why are you looking at me? You know, it is uncomfortable for some staff. So we do the training up front with staff and ask them, like Hector said, to be the front line. We have a lot of staff that do a good job in their classrooms, but where they don't feel comfortable with the situation, you know, they always know they can send it to us to deal with.
And there's no judgment. Not all teachers are prepared to have the conversation regardless of their veteran or rookie status. So if they need help, we encourage it, at least send that student to us so we can address the issue in the office. There's a lot of staff that in the front office that have been trained and fully understand, all the administrators, they're the two deans. So there's a lot of people that can help teachers. Teachers are feeling uncomfortable about it in the classroom. So. We do our best pretty much to work with, actually we have to go back. Go back one. Okay. So what we try again to be as respectful and reasonable with students as possible. If you can imagine, it's kind of a personal encounter for a person, even if it's, you know, an administrator they know or a teacher they trust, to just simply walk up and say, you know, hey, there's something wrong with your clothes. Like, let's talk about it, right? But we do approach students with as much respect as possible. We pull them aside. We ask them if they've been talked to by anybody today about their dress. Are they aware of what's wrong? I have no judgment, which is how I start every conversation with a student. And then we give them one of these four options. A lot of times students already have a garment in their possession that they can simply just put on, a comfort garment of some sort. If not, they can borrow. Then, you know, finally, if none of those options work for the student, then the student can call home. And we've had those scenarios, and a mom or dad will show up with the appropriate garments. Oftentimes parents will apologize, or, you know, the student will say, you know, I wasn't thinking, and this is what I put on. But we treat them as reasonably as you can. Next slide.
Can I point out something that, can you go back to that diagram? That diagram appears to be at odds with bullet 5 from that earlier slide, because it shows a shirt completely down to the pant. The belly button.
Yes, we've borrowed this from another school district because it's androgynous. It doesn't highlight boy or girl. It allows us to give a general picture of what's allowable or not allowable without making it feel personal on the boy or on the girl. It's new for us, so it's not.
We need to see midriff, it's, should be covered, but there's that allowance with clothing style and just
Yeah.
what frankly is out there for families to purchase this.
I've worked with young people for a long time and raising 4 kids, and there is that old adage that's never gonna be old fashioned. You give an inch and people take a mile. And it's not hard to see. It's very hard to enforce, like you mentioned before. It's very hard to enforce right now. And so it's very hard to imagine that there's really gonna be a lot of teeth to the belly button thing. Because it can easily turn into 1 inch, 2 inches. And a teacher understandably is gonna be like, oh, do I want this headache? Do I want to deal with this when I got all this other stuff I'm working on and all these other things to do? So I just want to state that my opinion is it should be that your skin's covered down your pants, boys and girls. And if your midriff is showing, that's not a professional look.
Pair square notices, I personally could send more of them, but I have sent several. Sent one just this week, and there were some really good comments. Thank you. I'm glad we have a standard. Same time, there were some comments that particular parent was okay with the ruling, but thinks there's other things we need to think about that might not be fair based on boys or girls. And so we'll take that under advisement and conversation about it and see if there's a better way to communicate it. We don't, most of the time students comply, so we don't make a lot of phone calls home to discuss solutions. Usually kids find some solution in those four areas. The kids that are pretty angry don't want to cooperate whatsoever, then there is that likelihood that there might be something in the incident management system or a phone call home. We don't have very many incidences of dress code violations. What we really have are kids who turn a simple dress code violation into an insubordination or complete defiance, or where they start to swear or have a hard time with what we're talking about, or you're judging me, etc. And so either way, we have to hold the standard. But if you're looking at just raw data, we don't have a ton of that. We do make some phone calls. We do sometimes have phone calls, usually after the fact, when they've gone home and said, this is what happened to me at school today. The parent calls, sometimes heated. Wait, what happened with my kid today? Why didn't I get a phone call? And so if the student complies, there isn't a reason for me to tell home that they comply. By the way, Billy complied. It'd be kind of cool, but at the same time, given time, we're going to err on that side. Question down there, number 3. We listen really well. I think I've learned that in this district, there isn't a person in this room who hasn't had a parent call and say they're not happy with it. So we listen as best we can. We focus on what they think they need or want, but we always come back to it's a standard for us right now, and there are avenues for you to appeal something we might be doing. The question has the students dressed and grooming disrupted the learning environment. If a teacher has to stop class or can't start class and have to address the student wearing a marijuana shirt quietly, one-on-one, and that student turns it into something else, then that teacher has to go into the hallway, which we call hallway conversations. And we've had staff teach staff about what hallway conversation is. And then the student still has to comply, then that student has to be sent to the office. So I think every situation like that is an absolute disruption of learning environment. The fact that a student thought it was okay to wear a cookie shirt because what's the big deal, man? Or a marijuana shirt or anything, playfully. There are lots of reasons why kids may be encountered, but it's a disruption every time.
disrupting the entire learning environment, that would be something like, hey, I have a
So
student in the
teachers,
office.
I appreciate the question, Cassie. Teachers have lots of options, right? We want them to feel empowered to solve the lowest level option in their classroom. For me, dress code is not a principal action. Until it turns into a huge confrontation, there's, a big show, language, whatever, then I feel definitely that I'm gonna take that on for sure, or one of our deans. I don't know, Robert, how do you handle it in this one?
No, I think what you're asking is kind of the right direction. We, if a teacher can address it. So we just look at any time a teacher has to stop normal school business to address student dress, that's a disruption to learning. And so for the teachers that are skilled, maybe have been doing it a while and can have those conversations quickly and effectively, they can do that. But for some that it's a struggle for them, how do I address it? How do I say it without offending the student and making them mad? That's where they can send a quick email.
And my understanding is like in elementary school, it was just, hey, honey, go to the office. It wasn't addressed in classroom, is what I remember.
I think it's, every situation.
Secondary is different. I
I think for the most part. I think we work really hard to review our handbook every year. There are a lot of things we addressed this year. We also teach this dress code portion specifically in our administrator visits. The first 2 days, one of the 2 days on the first week of school, 28th and 29th of this year. The 5 administrators, the 2 deans will be in all English classes, basically talking to every student in the building. And one of the components. We do have a way of making sure we talk to all students. Every opportunity we can to talk to the student directly about it, we do. We obviously have a nice stack of alternative clothing. And we will call a parent if the student escalated it beyond compliance, because no harm, no foul. Maybe today you didn't even think about it, you put that shirt on, you didn't realize that was your shirt you're wearing. I went to high school in 1976.
Reference back to it as each, school level starts to do their communications, whether it's the high school, middle or elementary, really it's a high school middle thing. So we appreciate the communication going out to kind of set the overall tone of the discussion, and then we can refer back to that in our communications.
That's all we have for you today. You have questions for Robert and I, we'll take Mr. Schmidt.
Yeah, I just want to comment a little bit, and kind of jump off of where Nate was sharing. I spent 40 years in schools, and dress code was always a big topic. Every year it was a big topic. In terms of the teachers, you had teachers that loved enforcing dress code. You had teachers that were indifferent to enforcing dress code, and you had teachers that didn't want to have anything to do with it. I've been in schools where we had uniforms, and kids will coat and tie uniform. And kids would find a way to get around the uniform. Anything they could do, kids are going to do that. Okay. I've been in a school where we tightened up dress code because it was in Hawaii. It's very loose, very laid back, but we needed to tighten it up. Kids were wearing board shorts and slippers to school. Okay. Tank tops and this kind of stuff. I lean to the side that Nate is on, that I think a bit of formality is a good thing. And I think a bit of consistency is a good thing, even between boys and girls. I personally think the midriff is easy to deal with. If you can give somebody clothes from your cash and clothes that you have at the school to be able to take care of whatever dress code problem they have, then they can probably get them themselves as well. I think there is a sense of, it can take it away from a sense of seriousness about what you're doing if you don't pay attention to how you dress. But again, I come from your era, okay, and I understand that fashions change and ideas change, but it doesn't matter what the dress code is, the kids are gonna push the dress code. And some teachers are gonna force it and some aren't. I would just like to see you reconsider the midriff thing. I think there's a sense of formality that even those who are opposed to formality can probably use it more than those who aren't. Could actually use some formality and use some standards that are raised up a little higher and might help them in their life down the road. That's just my thoughts. Okay.
I think the school board and the school district work pretty well together. I think whatever community involvement you have to make a decision that's reasonable for all people. And I think we'll be able to come to a solution with that.
Yeah.
And I don't think you'll have any problem with principals or teachers following that. We have to start somewhere, we have to make a decision somewhere, and then the community has to buy.
Thank you.
Thanks. I'm gonna say one thing real quick, sorry. Member Dibdall, along the same lines. I have two daughters at home that are of the age where they're starting to wear clothes that maybe they make more decisions on. And I don't think it's nearly as hard as people might let on, as far as purchasing clothing that can keep girls covered up, and I'm speaking just from my experience with my daughters. So if we're gonna make a statement somewhere on these slides, or maybe it's in the policy, but that we're treating this like a business atmosphere, I wholeheartedly agree with both individuals, and I would love to see that change. And I'm very curious about how we came up with top of the belly button, also the spaghetti straps. Like, is that just because somebody went shopping and decided upon those things, or we sent a poll out? I'm just curious, and this is not aimed at you by any means. But they seem very derogatory or very ambiguous. And then how high do the pants have to be? A great point Gary brought out, how low can the shirt be? I love that mesh is addressed and like things can't be see-through. That was well played, because that's obviously been seen, as have tube tops around the campuses. So anyways, I appreciate the direction that we're trying to go, but I think we could go farther if we really want to treat this like a business environment and preparing kids for the future.
If I can say one more thing too, in terms of if we were to go a little farther, there is an adjustment period. But in my experience, the adjustment is made. And, kids make the adjustment. They're very capable of making adjustments, as you all know. So.
Thank you.
So just from the practicality part and consistency, 90 some odd % of any issues ought to be taken care of first period, right?
Correct.
If it shows up in second period, some kind of way, somebody wasn't consistent in enforcing policy.
Not necessarily. No, I put a sweatshirt on in first period, I take it off in second period. That happens all the time, Jerry.
I said 90%.
No.
No, that would be.
So
more.
you're saying you addressed it with the kid and then the kid chose to fix it again.
No, they came to school with the sweatshirt on and didn't take it off until third period. That happens a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, because it's cold in the morning and then they.
Nevertheless,
Class or.
most of the issues
Yeah.
should be done consistently. First period, it should be over. I will grant there are outliers, but they're going to be a small percentage compared to if all the teachers are consistent. Most of it will be done first period. The rest of the day there shouldn't be only issues of sweatshirts in third period.
This is probably when we get the majority of the emails in the morning if the teacher doesn't want to deal with it, and they're pretty good about in their teacher teams. I had so-and-so first period administrators, so-and-so agreed to put on a sweatshirt for the rest of the day, and then the teachers after that can hold them accountable forward. So we do have that kind of communication going on.
Hector, I just want to point out, I wore a t-shirt to a board meeting, so I have no comments. But thank you for your service. I appreciate you. Thank you both for going up and sharing with us. Appreciate it.
You have board shorts on?
I have my pants.
Okay.
That's my belly button.
Okay, Director Jones.
Oh, I am here to give you your annual restraint and seclusion report and to answer questions for you. I do want to point out a couple of kind of anomalies for us this year, or this past year, around restraints and seclusion. We don't have any seclusion rooms, so that number is 0, which is always good. The one anomaly I wanted to talk about, I don't know if you can see it on there, but you have it in front of you, is the number of incidents in which personnel administering restraint were not trained. Last year, for the first time, we had 3 of those 3 students. All 3 were general education students. 2 of the people that administered the restraints had been previously trained in our system. And the other one was a little kindergartner who was outside waiting for the bus was late, they had it, and they started taking off toward a really busy street, and the adult that was closest grabbed him up to keep him from running out into a busy street. Typically, schools have teams of people that have been trained in what we call nonviolent crisis intervention. And those are the people who are called to situations that might require a restraint. A reminder that by law, restraints can only be done when there is imminent danger to the student or others or staff person with the students there. You see that our number has increased. I don't think that number is really a surprise to you, given all that we've heard this year around some of our behavior concerns that we've had. In addition, we just have more students experiencing those pretty high dysregulated state. 15 students accounted for all 24 of the restraints. When you think about our overall population of students, that's a pretty low number. And by the end of this week, we anticipate having 152 staff members in the district trained in NBCI, either recertifying or initially certifying. And then Danny and our NBCI trainers and I will also be working with teams of EAs to do, the way the training is set apart is there's a first part that's all about de-escalation, trying to get them so you never have to get to the restraint. We're going to go through a lot of that with our EA staffs and teachers this year. I can speak for, I would guess the majority of us, we never like doing them. Even Ryan and I had to do one this year, and I was covered in black and blue bruises, and that happens. It's always our last resort it's traumatizing for the kid. It's also traumatizing for the adult that has to do it. So that is our report. Questions about that? Yes, sir.
Is there any pattern relative to age of the students?
Almost always you're gonna, these restraints are done on our younger students. It's very, very rare if we get one in. We had to do, I think, one this year. Might have just been pulling them off somebody. Not a vendor. For the most part, there are elementary age students.
And within elementary, are we talking 5th graders or
If
kindergarten?
you look down.
Or did I miss it somewhere?
No, it's not on here, but for the most part, I would tell you it's probably K3. Oh, 4, yeah.
I would say it's not.
So it spans the whole elementary.
It's K5, but I would say this year might be, yeah, I was gonna say it's this particular year. Yes. you have a question?
I do have a question.
I'm ready.
On your, I'm shocked with the economic disadvantage. Is there a reason, can you think why? That's kind of shocking.
We have a high percentage of students that are economically disadvantaged.
Okay, so that's where, okay, that makes sense. Thank you. Okay, yeah.
That's just our population and our district. Other questions about restraint or seclusion?
I think we're good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next piece is around the building that you saw going in. I'm giving you a little flyer to help you. So the new building on the GP Flex campus is twofold. And one part of that building, the big part of that building is going to house our adult community transition program. Our adult community transition program is for students experiencing disabilities who have graduated with a modified, extended, or a certificate of attendance. And they come and are attending over there to learn skills in education and training, employment, independent living, self-determination, and communication. Last year we had 17 students in our program. We're anticipating around the same amount this year. Our teacher and his staff have made connections out in the community with you'll see lots of pictures in these flyers, which is really cool. For the kids, the adults, the adults, and it gives them an opportunity to learn the skills they need to be more successful there. And to connect with other agencies that are going to help support them as they age. So, and Tommy can give you more about the timeline and stuff. I'm just kind of.
So what's new about this building as opposed to where they were housed previously?
So previously they were housed within the GPH high school building. And these are students who are 18 to 21 years old. We wanted to make this program should be, and in most places is, on a separate location outside of the high school campus. So we're not having a 21-year-old walking around with a 14-year-old, right? But that's our goal.
Yeah.
The difference in this building, we're gonna have additional life skills area in cooking and cleaning and those kind of things. Storage and just more of an independent nature in this program. So the year before, it was in the middle of the core building, and that was really tough. Last year it was next to the cafeteria and a couple classrooms there. So we're really excited for them to have further off-site, more independent program for them to get there.
Classrooms built specifically for
Correct.
their needs.
This portable was designed with this program in mind for what they need to be successful.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing this. I think this is wonderful. And that we have a program that's helping with these people so that they hopefully don't fall through the cracks. Just curious, is there partnership with Southern Oregon Aspire for helping?
So
For employment?
typically they start at 21. We partner with both rehab, community living, case management, youth transition programs. Some of our students sort of graduate from our program and then get connected up with Aspire through other community organizations. We this year had a student get hired on at the library. And some of our program, she worked a few hours. We had one working at Dairy Queen a couple of hours or a couple of days a week. So it's a voluntary program. They don't have to come all day, every day, but they can come all day, every day of their program. But they can also come for 3 hours and work on life skills and then go actually have a job in the afternoon and do a different thing. So it's a completely voluntary program, but it's our job to provide it through age 21. Yeah.
That's awesome. Thank you for sharing.
Super cool. I'll have to have them come share sometime.
Yeah,
Ooh, fun.
that'd be great.
Okay, Evergreen Virtual Academy, Director is it or? James, what? I'm not sure. I'm expecting, it's gonna pop up any minute, or we're gonna hear the door.
I was too embarrassed to walk around the front. Somebody reminded me that my basketball shorts from 1983 came out as mental best.
Sneaking into third period, way to go.
Not me personally, that was true too. So our saga, continuing here as we search for an elementary virtual footprint for GP Flex. Before I get to this, let me tell you where we're at in the journey. You know that we looked at MyTech High. Just didn't pan out in the end. The contract, that legal review, that kind of thing. We are still exploring options for what GP Flex might be able to do in the future. So part of our explorations, we continue to work with an organization called Options for Education, which represents most of the homeschool families and those types of co-ops in our area. So we meet with them on a regular basis to help try to design something. I have met probably 6 times with a group that is exploring either a charter school or maybe different kind of partnerships with GP Flex, that kind of thing. Tim, Keith and I met with a group this just earlier today to continue those conversations. We will be traveling to Philomath. Philomath has a school called Philomath Academy, if you want to look it up. Philomath Academy has been recommended by ODE as what they would think of as a role model for the type of kind of Logos looking school that we were experimenting with or talking about. So that's where we're kind of at in our journey for next year. In the meantime, we're still looking for some kind of footprint for this year to give us an elementary option at GP Flex. Just they at a COSA conference that Vanessa attended and Tim attended, group Evergreen was there. They had a little booth and that kind of thing, and they gave some information. So I called Evergreen and said, hey, what are you? What's this all about? So some due diligence. So Evergreen used to be Oregon Virtual Academy. So they used to be a for-profit type of virtual school. They went from that to becoming a charter school connected with North Bend School District. Last year, they had an experience with the Cottage Grove School District where Cottage Grove had a student that needed a virtual experience. Cottage Grove didn't have any kind of virtual experience there, so they contacted Evergreen and said, hey, is there anything we can do? Based on that, they allowed that student to join with their virtual school program, and that went well for that particular student. Out of that came Evergreen's idea was, well, maybe we could provide this service on a contract basis with other school districts. So when we talked with them, this is the proposal that we basically got back. It represents about a 60-40 split in ADM, with 60% coming to the district, 40% would then go to Evergreen. But you can see on there the types of things that they provide. A couple of really important things to note. Another part of our due diligence was Tim and I met with ODE. We met specifically with Kate Pattison. I think Chad and Nathan both went to a presentation, maybe a couple of presentations at OSBA with Kate. She's the resident guru on charter schools. We also, in that meeting, we met with Andy Margis, who is the alternative education leader from Oregon Department of Education. They both recommended Philomath Academy, and they also recommended Evergreen as being a option that has state certified teachers, has state certified curriculum. They have a crosswalk that shows that the things that they teach match up with state curriculum. They have synchronous lessons that kids could participate in, so they could be a part of a virtual Zoom classroom. They also record those lessons on a Canvas platform, which is the same platform that we use, so Canvas. So they can do it asynchronously on their own if they wanted to take the lessons not live. So given all of that information, we had them do a contract proposal for us. We had our attorney review that contract. He said this one was okay. So that was our due diligence part. We don't know if we'll have any kids that are interested. We don't know if we'll have 1, 2, 20 kids that are interested, but what it does in doing this partnership is it gives us a year where we're still exploring what's best for our community, but at least we have a virtual elementary option that would be available for this upcoming school year.
Follow up on due diligence. I had Kristen check social media posts and other like Facebook and right school review sites. And 4 years ago, it was rated very poorly when it was under Oregon Virtual Academy. The rankings from parents have been much more positive in the last year. So that part we've done, and Danny and I, he doesn't know this yet, have a phone call with the North Bend superintendent on Friday. I don't know what time yet, which is why you don't know about it yet. So,
Any follow-up questions?
Do we know how many students Evergreen has already?
I don't know exactly how many, but what they have is space in their classes. So that's one of the reasons they're able to offer it. So let's say they have 30 third grade slots, they have 22 slots filled up, they have 8 slots that they could offer different.
how many, what was the student to teacher ratio at My Tech High as compared to Evergreen?
Oh, it's much lower.
It was 150 to 1 at My Tech High. It's about 30 to 1. At Evergreen. So.
So this is elementary and middle, correct?
Yep, they could do high school too, if we were ever to, explore that.
Did they have information, Danny, like graduation rates and that sort of thing that we've talked about before? If
It's higher than 0.1.
Oh, good.
As Oregon Virtual Academy, which they have gone away from, it was around 19%. So I don't know that they've done as Evergreen since the move. I don't know if they have that data on graduation rates, but I can ask the North Bend superintendent on Friday. Yeah.
When we were discussing My Tech High, I think there was a statement that there was a portion of our community very interested in that. But you just said that we don't know of anybody. Can you help me remember, was there a number of kind of known families that we were talking about, either with My Tech High or the idea of if we were to have our own self-made option?
I think just bluntly, Dustin, one of the things that what we've heard is most attractive to some members of our community that My Tech High had and other charter schools have is there's a bit of money that's a choice thing, and where I could spend some money to take the YMCA class. I might be able to buy my own curriculum of choice with some money.
Okay.
So it's the amount of money that was being offered through My Tech High for just personal individualized choice, I think that was the most attractive. Gotcha.
And this does not have that.
This does not, that doesn't mean that we may not, as a district, say, hey, you may have $250 available. We might be able to take a PE class, something like that. So it wouldn't be anywhere near the 1,500 range type of thing, but open to having maybe a little bit of money.
So, but based on this contract, the offering to families is the laptop.
Yeah, and all the.
Looks like you get a
programs
headset.
And curriculum and those types of things, so. Yeah.
So does Evergreen offer, one of the things that My Tech High had was multiple curriculum options? Does Evergreen have that option as well?
They don't,
Okay.
they're more, and they're much more limited, so the Strong Mind is the main curriculum for math and reading. I'm gonna pronounce it wrong, but she's gonna help me solve this. There's our adopted reading curriculum, SATIS for social studies and science. And then they have some, a group of, what do you call it, supplemental things like that, something called reading aids and math aids, and one that we're familiar with, and more familiar with IXL. In math. Yeah. So those are the choice things that they have, so, but again, they're all linked directly crosswalk to Oregon standards, whereas much of that menu from My Tech High would not have had that feature.
Right.
If we can be frank and blunt, is that what you feel like people are looking for in the number of meetings that you or Tim or whoever else have had? That they're looking for similar to curriculum to what D7 already offers? Or something else?
I think they're looking for flexibility. I think they're looking for, I have some options. This may be a good option. I think the strongest draw is that, what is that offering that I have choice, that I can join maybe a co-op if that's allowable, or I can join like I said, the YMCA, and that's the only one that's come to mind, but there are other music for kids.
Both softball programs, lots of sports, tons of
Yeah.
recreational stuff.
And the more that's in that pot seems to be it's most attractive to the families. And Keith, am I overstating that, or is that?
No, and that was the big thing with the families that I talked to, was just wanting to have options and flexibility and not sort of, one size fits all. And the concern about, an elementary online program is if it's gotta be this, then they're gonna have some concern with that.
And a lot of parents aren't fans of Edgenuity,
Right, right.
which is our only offer.
Right.
And I understand you're looking for something for this year, but if I'm extrapolating from what I'm hearing, this doesn't sound like it's exactly what people are looking for or finding elsewhere.
Correct. Dustin, or Nate,
Oh, what'd you call me?
I almost got to Dustin.
Oh.
I'm still
Sound like
trying.
you said John.
You with the hair midriff thing.
Yeah, please don't. It's ugly.
Should have gone away.
These days. What was I gonna say? That was good, Dan. No, yeah, the flexibility vibe thing is something that I've got to, when I talk to people. I was just curious, not knowing how many would want to participate, whether it's 10, 20, 100, maybe someday. With this, what are the biggest downsides or risks that you might see with this? Or are you?
I think the risk
Yeah.
is very minimal because I don't think we have a ton of elementary students that are aware of this yet, because we haven't really marketed it at this point. And I think we're really talking about 15 to 20 students, not hundreds as we were with MyTech, which made us a lot more vulnerable to ODE coming in and saying we're not paying for that ADM on those students.
It was like 60%, I think you said that the district.
The district with MyTech was gonna be what, 53, I think it was, yeah.
And the big fear with.
And this is
that-
60.
This is
Yeah.
60. The big
Yeah.
fear with that, if we had reimbursed ODE for the ADM that they paid us, we wouldn't be reimbursing the 53, we'd be reimbursing the 100%. With no refund coming from that side.
Because they would have said we delivered what we were told you we would.
Right, and it doesn't seem like participating we're not leveraging out anything or building out there's not a huge upfront investment.
Right. No.
And then, sorry, that brought up a new question for me. So with MyTech, there was the idea that we'd kind of be the link for them in Oregon, and so we end up seeing students from all over. But it sounds like in your example with Evergreen, there was a school that sought them out because they had a student. So do they have multiple contracts around the state?
No, I had that one contract last year, and we are the first district. that-
Okay, so it would it be the same that we have? We would potentially have students from anywhere in Oregon?
I don't think so. They would have to transfer to us wanting to go to Evergreen when they could just transfer to Evergreen to access their services, if that makes sense. So because MyTech High is not a physical thing, it's a program that people bought into, they had to transfer this, so they had to transfer. Or would have had to transfer Cresthouse. But because everything's a physical charter school at North Bend High School, they could just transfer. The North Bend School District's not like program. So.
Is this a 1-year contract that we're discussing? And is there a significant upside to this, as was mentioned before, I think with MyTech or other options of learning from the system to be able to self-implement in the future?
That's the whole.
Very good. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Ken.
We'll keep informed on our side.
Still got the chair.
I got a famous sinking chair.
I don't know, maybe Gary's.
I'll be under the table pretty soon. Right, I'm good.
Like Gary was going up to the All right.
He wasn't last.
Connie emailed you last week the demographic study for you to look over. a lot of information in there. Did you have questions about any of that? Looks like they're predicting in the short term, we could lose as much as 600 students. Before all these housing projects are put in place, so. But. What's that?
Where are they going?
It's the birth rate that's going down.
Oh.
Okay, that's part of it.
You said
We-
lose, I thought they were
Well,
leaving.
so no, it would be, we're bringing in smaller classes each year. Yeah,
The migration into the city isn't enough to offset the declining birth rate.
well, right now, we don't have a lot of migration into the city because there's not a lot of affordable housing,
Yeah.
so. I know that they are getting closer across the street from Redwood. We also saw off of B Street, paperwork being filed with the city for 270?
Yep.
270 homes off of B Street, which would be the Highland area. So, plus what's going on between, up around Allen Creek. But the expectation is gonna take 5 to 7 years before those homes are built and students are moving in. Okay? Did Joe get the magic chair? Is that what I'm saying?
I'll be absent really soon.
Do you want to trade the right leaning chair
Nah,
for
I'm
that,
good.
the
I'm good.
sinking chair?
Okay.
So,
Yes.
So in the demographic study. They had to make some assumptions, one of them based on birth rate, which declined significantly given COVID. And the assumption they made was that the birth rate would come back up to at least a midpoint between where it's currently at and what it was pre-COVID. If the birth rate doesn't go back up, if it stayed where it actually is today, the number of students projected to be 11. So that's kind of like the worst case scenario, which is, I believe the guy who made the study said was overly pessimistic, but it does give us some idea of a potential bottom side is if that birth rate doesn't go back up, which we'll get to see over the next couple of years, then it's not gonna be 650, it'll be like more like 1,000. Depending on what the birth rate does. So we do have new housing and stuff going in. Plus, there was also an assumption about how many students would join GP Flex. And if we don't get an increase of students to GP Flex like was assumed, there's also another loss of like 100 students over the next 10-year time frame. So those are just some of the things that are, the guy had to make a call, make an assumption. For GP Flex, he plugged in what we thought we were going to do with GP Flex, and for the birth rate, he kind of picked a midpoint between where we're at and what it was pre-COVID.
I did not thoroughly read it. I am going to do that. I just haven't had the time, but did he make mention at all of the zoning law changes or the efforts that are going in from the governor and the legislature on trying to jumpstart more housing development? Was that taken into consideration at all?
I don't think so.
I didn't even see anything related.
A little bit along, just tagging on to what you're saying, Gary, of course, you know, we're up against the demographic shift, and so that's a big looming thing, but you know, there has been a lot of effort in changing the zoning, and with the adoption of the middle housing code, it has allowed development in places within the city limits that were never allowed before. You know, for example, there's no longer single family zoning anymore. So if you live in a neighborhood that you have, it's a single family neighborhood or was, and they have a little bit of land, as long as it's, I think it's 3,000 square feet, you know, they could build up 4 units on it. And so that is change, you know, the economy is a little rough right now, but when things get better, it's, you know, talking to some developers that I know locally, it's not hard to see a burst in that because of the middle housing code changing. So anyway, I'm just saying there's, yeah, it is helpful to have, you know, it is helpful to have those, to see that the trends and have those targets, but there's some other factors out there. Maybe it won't be as bad.
Correct. Yeah.
Joe?
Yeah, I'm looking at the one chart where it's based on school level, K5, 6, 8, 9, 12. And of course, you're seeing the downward trends over the last 4 or 5 years in the K or the 6 through 8. And then you're seeing a more extreme one in the K through 12, and that's all going to move on up, it looks like. My question is, do we have an idea how many kids in this community are homeschooled, go to independent schools or private schools?
Yeah, Tanya keeps that information.
Is it a significant number?
Yeah.
Because it gets back to the strategic plan. We talked about community outreach.
Mhm.
And I was looking at the advertisement the other day. And I thought the advertisement was terrific. But I think that's one of the important, we may underestimate the importance of community outreach and what it says to the community in terms of sending their children to that wouldn't necessarily come here, especially at the high school level now, because they're going to start really hitting it. And people may be willing to keep their children in private schools in the elementary level because they don't deal with the nearly with the social issues and the behavioral issues and that kind of stuff. But they may be more open to sending their kids to the high school because usually the kid makes that choice, not the parent, when they get to be that age.
Right.
Was there a comment somebody had?
Anybody else? Okay. We'll move on. Are you done?
I am.
Okay. 6.0, board report and special concerns.
Community listening sessions. Do you have that on yours?
I do. I was thinking around here. Let's do 6.1 first before we go to the PowerPoint community listening session. We wanted to talk about those and what we were thinking. Do we want 1? Do we want 2? Do we want intimate? Do we want open?
I'll take the lead. So I asked for us to talk about this here, rather than trying to somehow sort it out or just find out what was happening. So there were 4 meetings that were suggested and there was some different ideas on is it just open forum? Is there specific topics? How strategic are we about that? And so I thought it would be good to talk about here because I think there's different opinions, but this seemed like a good place to discuss. Does anybody have thoughts on that?
My input was just that in the one meeting that well, it sounded like we were talking about having specific topics for a lot of meetings, but having one that allows for open topics, and I know there's some concern about how it's formatted, which I think is correct and makes a lot of sense. And so I'm just suggesting that we do one of those meetings, kind of like the way we did the pizza party. We don't have to buy all that pizza, but I thought it worked pretty well where we were at different tables and people could come in and go to the tables and talk about whatever was on their mind. So it just gives a chance for people in the community to just bring up whatever issues are on their mind in more intimate settings with individual board members at the tables. So I'm just advocating that we do that at least once.
Sure. Whatever you guys want. Yeah.
This is your chance, guys.
Yeah, Member Smith, I agree
Make
with
the
Nathan
choice.
about the format for that session. We seem to have a bunch more people sign up than actually came. So maybe we can work on marketing and I still think you could introduce some topics too. I mean, have a few topics that we want to specifically ask for feedback, but then have some open-ended. I thought the round robin table approach, was better for people, who wouldn't maybe want to speak in front of a big group, in front of everybody, but just want to, share something with a board member. I personally liked having a director at my table because, I didn't know half the answers and it was just kind of a back and forth and all around. So, and I enjoyed the pizza.
So did the band.
Yeah.
Anybody else have a comment?
Yeah, I concur, and I think the more you do it, probably the greater the attendance will occur if it continues over and over again.
Maybe we started at like 7 o'clock when it's clearly after the dinner hour. So we're not providing food and we end around 8:30 or something like that.
I think it's like a PTA meeting. You just try them all.
Or even just cookies or something, I mean, something much simpler.
Sure, I just, yeah.
Right.
If you have it at 5 o'clock and you invite the public, there's going to be some expectation there will be food for them to, right? And then, so we plan on 150 because that's who signed up and we have 33. Fortunately, we had 100 some band students out there to eat that pizza. Otherwise it was not, right?
I think that was a better cost.
They were thrilled. As I remember, it was raining, right?
Yeah.
So.
It was yucky.
Tim, I would suggest more like 6:30 to 8 because 8 is kind of a witching hour.
You got it. Yeah. But yeah, we can have cookies at it and you're thinking October-ish. Do you want to wait later in the school year? What's your thoughts there?
Let's get her done. October.
I thought I saw invites for all this, the proposed times.
Oh, was there?
The dates that are set up,
Okay.
if we want to talk about those, were September 16th, October 28th, January 27th, April 28th. I think Tanya had come up with those, so.
So the October 28th be that
Yeah,
bigger one?
That's what it said, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
because I won't be at
It's just time is on top of things.
So we should be in Halloween costumes, maybe.
But we're still gonna do some of the other ones where we try to invite people, right?
Yes.
Yeah, my thinking, my suggestion was just one of those we turn into the open forum. Because it allows people to speak about whatever's on their mind and connect with board members.
School's been in session for a couple of months too, so they'll have
You want to
something
talk
more.
about belly buttons.
Nathan's belly button.
All right, I don't have it. Board reports and special concerns. Is there anybody else?
I like the pictures and I just got a peek of the new tennis courts. They look gorgeous.
Yeah, they did a great job. Booster Club did that.
That's awesome.
Yep.
And I want to thank Tim and Kristen and whoever else worked on it. The little video advertisement was really cool.
And what else are we doing this week? We're advertising in a local,
Local paper.
yeah.
Yeah, excellent.
And we'll have a full video. That was just a 30-second. We'll have a longer brand video.
Sizzle reel, right?
Ooh, okay.
And so I'm always interested in which pot of money comes from for where, for what. So I don't know how hard it would be, Sam, to tell me what money was spent from general fund capital outlays, capital funds versus full AP credit. I know a lot of projects get done during the summer, so that's.
I would tell you almost none of them are general fund.
Yeah, there's very little.
Okay.
For last year, there was a couple bands maybe that were part of ESSER, so ESSER paid for it out of the general.
You mean this summer, right? The summer we're
Yeah.
completing.
Oh,
We're talking about this summer.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost all full faith and credit.
Okay,
Yeah, we have a very minimal maintenance budget this year because we have the full faith and credit money. So,
And we have not enough general fund money.
right, yeah. So,
Say that in the
I just,
microphone.
just double checking.
no,
Okay. Anybody else? Gary.
Oh dear.
serious.
The clicker doesn't work, Gary. You're gonna have to go over there.
Give it a one of each.
Might give it to understand that.
Yeah.
No clicker, right?
Apparently it's on the front. Just call her next slide and I'll have him do next slide.
Well, this time we won't be doing the Nuremberg trials, and I see Lois is here, with the inspiration for the Nuremberg trials. The last time I was using the source documents, the original source document. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for listening to me today. As educators and staff in School District 7, we are entrusted with the profound responsibility of shaping young lives. Today, I want to talk about a concept that is as simple as it is powerful.
Hit it.
Next slide.
Okay.
Children and adults. I was at the beach, we were looking for eggs, we were shoveling some stuff, I put down the shovel, I wandered off.
And called me, right?
And then I turned around and lo and behold, this little guy was doing what I was doing. This phenomena is not a passing observation. It's a deeply rooted behavior with significant implications for how we conduct ourselves in the presence of our students.
I think I've ever seen Gary in shorts.
Research consistently shows that children learn by observing and replicating the actions of adults, which can both be a blessing and a responsibility. Studies have demonstrated that children are more likely to adopt the behaviors and attitudes of those they perceive as role models, which includes their teachers and school staff. For instance, in a study highlighted by the University of Birmingham, found that when educators consciously act as role models, they contribute significantly to the character development of their students. Developmental psychologists have long recognized that children learn by imitating adults. A recent study comparing Australian preschoolers and Kalahari Bushman children found that over imitation, where a child copies every action that an adult demonstrates, not just the necessary steps, is a universal behavior. As a school community, we are in a unique position to influence our students' lives positively. Our everyday actions, whether we are in the classroom, the hallways, or the cafeteria, are being observed and often imitated by our students. This influence isn't limited to academic guidance. It extends to how we interact with one another, handle stress, and show empathy. Another study found that students who identified school staff as role models exhibited enhanced responsibility, character development, and a more positive attitude towards school. This underscores the importance of not just being present, but being intentional in how we carry ourselves in the school environment. Does everybody know this guy?
Yeah, really great golf.
Sometimes he's a good role model. Sometimes he.
Next slide.
He was a lot thinner back then.
As educators, unlike celebrities who may disclaim responsibility for being role models, we don't have that luxury. Our actions are directly observed and often imitated by our students. While Charles Barkley famously stated that he is not a role model, as teachers and staff, we must acknowledge that we are indeed role models every day, whether we choose to be or not. There you go. By embodying the values we wish to see in our students, we contribute to creating a positive school culture. When students see adults who are respectful, responsible, and kind, they are more likely to mirror these behaviors. This in turn fosters a community where students feel safe, supported, and motivated to succeed. These skills are not just essential for academic success, but for their overall development as individuals who can contribute positively to society. I urge each of us to reflect on the incredible power we hold as role models for our students. Let us be mindful of our actions and the example we set. By doing so, we not only fulfill our roles as educators, but also as mentors and guides, helping to shape a brighter future for our students and our community. Thank you for your commitment to being the best role models you can be. Together, we can make a lasting difference in the lives of the children we serve. I know it's hard, but they're watching this every single minute. We appreciate what you guys do in District 7 and for all the teachers that are showing up soon. Thank you for being good role models.
Great job. We have no action. No.
Okay. 7.0 is action items, and we don't have any action. We have one. Random.
At then after. Yeah. So a reminder, oh, sorry. Yeah, go ahead.
So there's future meeting dates and suggested agenda items, and before we adjourn.
Monday morning, if you want full breakfast, I'd arrive about 7:15. If you just want to graze, 7:30-ish. We'll be in the PAC starting at 8 a.m. So I'd like you folks to all be there. Tanya will direct you where you'll be seated, and we'll do a quick introduction as part of the opening ceremonies for the school year. Okay. If you're not going to be here, would you please let Tanya know? Okay. But Monday morning is the big kickoff. A lot of fun, a lot of energy and excitement. So, okay.
I live in the band there.
The band will be there.
We
Yeah.
need, Cassie,
yeah.
do we need action on item 4.4?
No.
No. So, okay, I will adjourn regular session. All right, reconvene general session. We have action item 12.1. DEA, MOA. Early retirement. Need a motion?
Member Smith, I move we approve 10.1 GPEA MOA early retirement as amended.
Member Schmidt seconds.
I have a roll call vote.
Member Smith,
Yes.
member Diplock,
Yes.
member Richardson,
Yes.
member Schmidt,
Yes.
member Sable,
Yes.
member Brownell,
Yes.
member Wilson.
Yeah.
Put that on by yourself.
All right.
That was